meditation through ASMR. Now, today's video is one of my usual favorites because this is going to be another imagination personality test where I ask you to imagine a scenario and then imagine things instinctually. So try not to think about it too much, just imagine the first thing that comes to your mind. You can write down your answers, you can write them in the comment section and then erase them in the end, or you can share them with us. But imagine these answers because in the end, what you imagine is actually going to mean something psychologically. So if I have you imagine an ice cream cone, the flavor of ice cream, the size of the cone, etc., all of that is important and it's actually going to mean something. This is, I think, the 5th test we're doing together, I believe. So I'm going to link the playlist to the previous tests. You can do these in any order. They're so much fun. I love these. But today's is the only difference is that I'm going to be doing these with you at the exact same time. I haven't read this test before. I believe this is going to be called the Pi personality test. We'll see. But throughout this process, as you picture things and I ask you to imagine things, I'm going to be doing the same thing. So in the end, when I read the answers, I'll be sharing my answers with you as well. So let's get started. I just wanted to say thank you so much for those of you who do share your answers. I find it so interesting. Okay, you can close your eyes if you'd like. You can relax. Relax. Make sure you're in a very relaxing environment with no distractions. Okay, let's begin. Imagine yourself in a large kitchen, sitting at a table. You're in a large kitchen and you're sitting at a table. On the table there's a pie. Get a clear image of the table and of the pie. So imagine you're sitting at the table. You're at a big table or a small table or a medium table and there's a pie. Imagine this. So imagine the pie and get a clear image of both the table and the pie. What size is the table? What size is the table? Think about what it's made of. What size is the table? How many seats are at the table? So if you haven't thought about it, think about it now. But how many seats, when you were imagining this table, how many seats did you imagine at this table? Okay. Now let's shift our focus onto the pie. Think about cutting a slice of the pie. So there's a pie and you're cutting a slice of the pie. How big is the slice that you cut? So in relation to the pie, let's say it can serve 4 people. Did you cut yourself a quarter? Maybe it can serve 8 people, 10 people. How big was the slice that you cut in relation to the pie? What filling does the pie have? This is very hard for me because I just celebrated Thanksgiving, so that's in my mind. But what filling does the pie have? So imagine the filling of the pie. What is the filling? Is the pie hot and fresh, or has the pie cooled off? So think about that. Now, picture somewhere nearby an oven. Imagine opening the oven. Did you have to get up to open the oven, or was it within arm's reach? So you're still sitting at the table when you imagine this oven. Did you pull the oven open from where you're sitting, or did you have to get up and walk to the oven? So think about that. Now as you opened up the oven, what was inside? Was there anything inside? Was it full? Was it empty? Was the oven on? And did you feel any heat when you opened it? So when you opened the oven, was it on? Was it off? Think about that. Now imagine more empty pie shells somewhere in the kitchen. So in this kitchen, there are empty pie shells. How many pie shells are there? So in your kitchen, imagine empty pie shells in the kitchen. How many empty pie shells are there around, if any at all? Where are the additional pie crusts in relation to the original pie? So the Where were the crusts? Were they nearby? Were they right next to it? Where were these additional crusts, if any? Now, imagine there's a baker in the kitchen. So in this kitchen, there's a baker. What is the baker doing? When you imagine the baker, the next question is the baker's back to you, or can you see their face or side profile? So what is the position of the baker? In the kitchen or in the area nearby? That's it. Sometimes I'm amazed at how fast these tests go, but this test is complete. The long part is when we usually reveal our answers, so I'll be revealing the answers, and at the same time I'll be sharing my answers with you. So I will tell you what everything meant. So let's go back to the beginning. When I asked you to imagine yourself at a table, and I said, what size is the table? The size of the table represents how social you are. The bigger the table, the more outgoing you are. The smaller the table, the more introverted and reserved you tend to be. So was your table big or was it small? Mine, I think it was medium-sized. I believe there was enough seats for 6 people. So it wasn't huge, it was kind of cozy, but it wasn't like a 2-seater or anything. It was a 6-seater, so I guess that means I fall somewhere in the middle. What about you? And do you find that to be accurate? I'm definitely more on the introverted side, but when I have a close knit of people in my life, like a close knit group, I actually do enjoy company of others, so it really just depends who I'm around. Next, how many seats are at the table? The number of seats represents the number of people you're comfortable having in your inner circle. So like I said, I feel like it's similar to the size of the table. When you think about the size, you also think of it in relation to the seats. So I personally saw 6 chairs, I believe. So there was like 2, 2, and then 2. So 4 in the middle and then 1 on each end. That's sort of what I imagined. So that's how many people I'm comfortable having in my inner circle. Maybe that's accurate. I guess myself included, 5 more people, who knows? Probably like my sisters and our significant others and things like that. Next, let's shift the focus onto the pie. So I asked you to think about cutting a slice of the pie. How big is the slice? The size of the pie represents your confidence. The larger the slice, the more confident you are in yourself. If you imagined a mini pie, you have a quiet confidence. So essentially, larger pie, larger slice, larger confidence in yourself. I believe I imagined a fairly decent sized pie. I think honestly, like I said, I just had Thanksgiving, so it was, my opinion was a bit swayed, but it was a pumpkin pie, and I think there was enough for like 6 slices or so. So I cut myself like a 1/6 of the pie, so not a quarter, but a 1/6, I guess. Pretty decent, but nothing ridiculous. I wonder if any of you ate the entire pie. Okay, next, what filling does the pie have? So I already said it was pumpkin, so it says, if it's your favorite flavor, you tend to put yourself first. If it's someone you know's favorite flavor, you tend to prioritize others. If it's a random flavor, you tend to be very indecisive. I hope that you weren't swayed like me, but mine was pumpkin because of Thanksgiving and all, but to be honest, pumpkin pie is probably one of my favorite flavored pies. So maybe I do put myself first. I don't know, I'm not sure how accurate that is. Maybe it's a little accurate, I'm not sure. I mean, it's one of my favorite pies. It's not my favorite, but it's one of my favorites for sure. So it wasn't an apple pie, so I guess I do put myself before others. Now it says, is the pie hot and fresh, or is it cooled off? The heat/freshness of the pie represents the current state of your dating/romantic life. The hotter it is, the more intense your love life is. If the pie was cool, you aren't feeling anything intensely romantic right now. Well, I don't think that's a fair assessment because my pie was very fresh, but it was like cool, like room temperature cool, because that's how I like to eat pumpkin pie. I don't like it when it's hot. I like it when it's cool with like whipped cream on top. So apparently this means I'm not feeling anything intensely romantic right now. But I don't know if that would be accurate. I wouldn't necessarily think that's a fair assessment. But if I imagined an apple pie, even though I don't like apple pie, I would have imagined a hot pie, because I think apple pie should be eaten hot and pumpkin pie should be eaten cold. So at least if the pie was appealing to you, whether it's hot or cold, I think maybe that's how you can judge it. So maybe if you really like cold apple pie but you had it hot, maybe you can switch the roles. Maybe I'm thinking too far into this. Next, I asked you about an oven nearby. Did you have to get up to open the oven, or was it within arm's reach? So, the distance you move to open the oven represents your mental energy level. The farther you travel to open the oven, the more invigorated and enthusiastic you're currently feeling. So I didn't travel ridiculously far, but I definitely got up and walked quite a bit. There's the table, kitchen counters, and then I walked and I opened the oven. I think I imagined my own setup situation. I wonder if you imagined something completely different than your setup. But it wasn't within arm's reach, so maybe that means I am invigorated and enthusiastic. I'm not sure. So, was there anything inside of the oven? So it says, the items in the oven represent the life goals you're currently focused on. The more/larger the things in the oven, the bigger your goals. Well, I did imagine a pie to be in there just because it was a pie theme. I think, oddly enough, I saw an apple pie. Which is not my favorite pie, but I saw a big pie in the oven. It was pretty big, but it was just one pie, not that much, so one fairly decent sized pie. Next, was the oven on, and did you feel any heat when you opened it? I didn't pay attention until I read that, and then as I read that I said, well, of course it would be warm because it's warming up the pie. So it says the intensity of the heat represents your sense of urgency to accomplish certain goals. If the oven was off/not hot, you're not feeling particularly pressured to conquer anything at the moment. If the oven was on/hot but empty, you're feeling pressured to figure out what it is you want to do next in life. So this one is interesting. Sorry if you hear my stomach during this, maybe the pie is making me hungry. So it says, essentially, the intensity of the heat is your urgency to accomplish certain goals. So if it was off or not hot, you're not feeling pressured. But again, if it was on and it's empty, maybe you're feeling too pressured. So that's an actually interesting one. I like that. Next, it says, how many pie shells are there? Additional pie shells represent worries and or tasks you've been putting off doing. The more shells, the more worries or tasks. Was your kitchen full of pie shells? I admit that when I initially envisioned this fantasy before it had me imagining things, I was sort of imagining like an empty kitchen. But then when they talked about an oven, boom, there was a pie in there. And then when they talked about pie shells, I imagined just a few. So there wasn't so many pie shells, but maybe a couple, which I feel like that is accurate. So the more shells, the more worries or tasks. And the additional pie shells represent tasks you've been putting off, so that's interesting. Next, or should I say lastly, where are the additional pie crusts in relation to the original pie? The closer they are to your original pie, the more you're subconsciously stressed out about these worries or tasks. The farther away they are, the less concerned you are with them. So, were your pie shells close to your pie? That means you're seriously worried about these stresses, or were they far from your pie? So my pie, of course all of our pies was on the table. Did you have pie crusts on the table? I had the pie crust on the countertop near the table, so not on the table, so I'm not too worried. So the test is complete. The test is over. The answers are over. How do you feel? Do you feel like this one was accurate in comparison to the other ones previously? I feel like these are always so interesting, and they're fairly accurate for me. I feel like, aside from the occasional life influence, I feel like if I can just get into a state where I just let go of anything and just imagine purely this fantasy, maybe my answers would be more accurate. But I think just having had Thanksgiving recently, that was weighing on my answers. But either way, I felt like there was definitely some accurate aspects and some not so accurate. So how did you feel? Was this accurate for you? I'd love to know your answers, but of course you can share them all. You can share one or two. You can share something that was particularly accurate or not. I would love to know. But until I see you next time, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here and taking this test with me. It really means a lot to me. I had these crackling candles going, so a nice cozy vibe, so hopefully that added to the ambiance and it wasn't distracting. But until I see you next time, I hope you're staying safe and staying well, and I hope you're well rested and not too